Hello. So today, guys, I'm just going to record a few notes for people that, for whatever reason, cannot access the lesson, just to make sure that we're all clear about what we need to do today. You only need to watch this if you're not in the lesson or there's any problems or you need a recap for any reason. So I just want to talk about a few things. Obviously, first of all, we are coming up to the assessment. And we also have the Raven task to finish. Okay, so the Raven task from last time, let's remember a picture of the Raven, and we're going to fill that picture with, and you can do this on paper. We're going to fill that picture with words that describe the Raven from the poem itself. And then on the outside, we're going to actually include the potential reaction, the audience reaction to that. Okay, I want you to submit that. Those people that have done a really good job of that can get a positive comment. What we've looked at in the Gothic so far this term is we've looked at the Gothic genre, the conventions of the Gothic. We've looked at different Gothic images. We've learned a lot of facts about Gothic literature. We've also watched that really good documentary about it. Then we've learned about Gothic settings and the creation of tension and fear with the Devils of Rose Hall. We've looked at some classic Gothic texts with extracts from Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, Dracula, Frankenstein. And then we've also looked at Edgar Allan Poe, looked at The Telltale Heart, and, of course, The Raven. So this is your assessment, guys, okay? Now, we're going to be just doing some preparation today. So I'm just going to introduce the task so you guys can start thinking about what it is you'd actually like to write about and what you'd like to get it, so gather your ideas, really. So I'd like you to use the style, theme, setting, and characters of Gothic horror in order to produce an authentic Gothic original piece of writing. So your role is the Gothic horror author. You're going to be writing to students, people your age or older. The situation is that you must be collecting Gothic elements to make a Gothic text. And your product should be 400 to 600 words, okay? Now, I did remind you last time that 600 is the upper word limit. So we're not looking for extensive, huge pieces of writing. We are looking for crafting something beautiful, which we feel is the best approach with GCSE around the corner. Obviously, it should be imaginative, original, and but it will also clearly draw on the Gothic horror tradition. So it's about taking the conventions, but maybe treating them in a slightly different and original way. Varied into expression and have some clear structure and also some really nice descriptive language and techniques. So what we're going to do is you can begin this by going back through your notes, reminding yourself of all the Gothic conventions, looking at all the examples that we've looked at, thinking about what elements of the Gothic that you want to include, which ones have stayed with you, which ones stand out to you, what approach do you think you're going to use. I've got a planning sheet, which we're not going to look at today, but we do have a planning sheet where you can start getting the ideas together. And of course, we're also going to be looking at the assessment objective as normal, but also some examples of successful writing, and successful in a variety of degrees. So we've got 3 pieces of writing here. So student 1, student 2, and student 3. And we've got examples of ghastly, grim, and Gothic writing. Now, one of these is very good, one is good, and the other is still good, but could be improved. Now, what I'd like you to do is use these questions to start learning from each of these ones. So even if you don't think this is the most perfect piece of Gothic writing, there's always still something that you can get from it. There's something you can learn from it. And this is a perfect example of that attitude. So what I'd like us to do is I'd like you to look at these 3 extracts and look at the questions. So question 1 asks you about language techniques, creating suspense and tension. Asks you to look at Gothic conventions and also creating emphasis. All right. Student 2 asks you to think about the use of weather in creating atmosphere, also language choices and descriptions, but also about sentence lengths. All right, and how they're varied. And the last one asks you to think about sentence lengths again, but also Gothic characterization, and also the language used to describe the characters. So what I'd like you to do is have a look at answer these questions for each of the three, and then I'd like you to say which one do you think is the most successful out of 1, 2, and 3, which one do you think is certainly in the middle, and which one do you think is the least successful. Even though all three are good, I think there is a sort of top, middle, and bottom here. Now, to help you do that, you need to think about the assessment criteria. So you're going to be assessed for your organization skills, how well you can produce a text, so thinking about the conventions, thinking about the setting characters and the events, and also your use of vocabulary and expression, also your grammar, spelling, and punctuation. So what I've got here is for each of these, I've just got a couple of notes to help you with each of the criteria. So make sure we are paragraphing correctly. Use a variety of paragraph lengths. So in the same way that you would organize your sentence lengths, you should be doing the same with paragraphs in creative writing. Think about how you can use the Gothic tropes and conventions, but in an original way. Avoid cliches. And show, don't tell. Okay, remember that Gothic writing is about the emotions. It's not about the plot. Keep your plot simple, simple, simple. You've only got 600 words. And then language, think carefully about your word choices, how they create mood and atmosphere. Remember the telltale heart, poems use many words about the senses, light, darkness, and fear to create atmosphere. And remember to use a variety of sentence lengths, but also sentence constructions. Okay? And then the last thing I want you to do is to think about what you would like to write for next time when we're going to produce a detailed plan. So the first task to do today, I'll do this again, is to make sure you're clear about what the task is coming up. And remember, you don't have to write a whole story. It can be the introduction, or it can just be a really good descriptive piece of writing. You need to read through and answer the questions for each student. And then I want you to also tell me which one is the most successful, in the middle, and the least successful. And do that by thinking about the following criteria. Okay, make sure that your Raven piece is finished and submitted. And also please make sure that you do this, you finish this and submit it by the end of the lesson. All right. Thank you very much, guys, and I will see you next time.